Hi everyone, my name is Jack Say, and I am here to present Subtheme 101, my first year using a Stanford Subtheme. So the reason why I decided to apply for this session was because I had a lot of questions and I peppered so many people at Stanford on how to roll out a customized website for myself to solve some of the problems that I had. And so here I am today, a year or two later, with everything that I've learned, and most of it through Drupal subtheming. I always wonder who is talking at these presentations. And so I just wanted to offer a little bit of myself. You can see that I have a nerdy jQuery shirt from the 2010 era. That's how far I go back. Here are some pictures of with my marketing team at a design agency, and here's my Stanford team, Office of Student Engagement. Here I am at some probably coding party back then when people used to have fun making websites. And here are some websites that I've actually worked on in the past. So a campus partner, or I should say a vendor, Concept 3D. I actually designed their homepage a while ago, maybe 5 years ago. They've changed a little bit now, but the same basic concept I pitched to them. And I worked on some Stanford medicine websites. And here I was last week drinking beers at Japantown. So that's who I am. I'm Jack Say. I've been a web developer, uh, but I graduated from Fine Arts University in graphic design. And so this is where I am now. I'm in communications, uh, but my lineage is through designing and developing and leading to now, 2026. What a 20-year experience. So my skills, and I want to review this because it's important for anyone watching this presentation in the future. Like, what is the baseline uh, type of experience you need to have to be able to roll out a sub theme? And I'm going to get into that in depth. But for me, I graduated college with a good understanding of how to use the Adobe suites for like Photoshop, Illustrator, how to manipulate vector files, and eventually I learned how to do HTML, CSS, and jQuery through like front end programming, making websites, the most fun times of web design, in my opinion. And eventually, as my grew more experience in the field, I did a lot more creative direction for website design. And now I'm in communications where I try to distill the ideas and use all of the different media channels to express those ideas. My basic philosophy of how I work on things, and I want to include this here as part of why I chose subthemes is I believe in holistic problem solving, get to the root of the problem. Uh, I believe in, customer centric design is what we used to call it in marketing. Try to understand your audience and develop things for them. And more recently, because there's so many tools out there, I love the phrase, the juice needs to be worth the squeeze, right? And so if you do stuff, is it worth it, right? And so that's a very important thing that I believe, like getting the value out of it. So to begin, I know everyone here knows what Drupal is, but I'm just going to do a quick review for anyone who might not be. Drupal is a CMS. It's a content management system. What does it do? It takes all of the difficulties of publishing on the web and makes it a lot easier for your entire team. So that means the people developing the website can develop the architecture behind it, and they can make things that are make features that are useful to everyone, like make it safe, manage the members that are using the website. But it also allows the administrators for the website to input information and publish information, manage the videos and the photos, and be able to log in and update information. So that's what it does. It's a content management system officially, and Drupal is just one of the players. Just want to review the history of CMSs just so that we know what we're talking about. My first CMS was maybe movable type, and then it eventually went to an expression engine. Uh, and then WordPress, of course, has always been there, and I've seen all the iterations of it. But so WordPress and Drupal are probably two of the most popular CMSs, and the reason why you would use both is kind of like WordPress is like a sedan, and Drupal is more like a truck. It's not an exact, fantastic metaphor, right? But Drupal excels in being rolled out by huge monstrosity corporations like Stanford, and WordPress can be used as like a restaurant. But you can argue that it can be used both ways as well. But Drupal does excel in being able to be rolled out with like uh, with our SUNET system and like being extremely secure and having a lot of functionality behind that. How does it work? It works by by being technology that is rolled out on servers. And so these servers are uh, very technical and require a lot of work by a lot of people to admin it. And so that's why we choose to use a CMS. Even if we used WordPress, typically WordPress is handled by a vendor that does all of the work behind the scenes. And all you do is click a button and installs it and you use it. And so the reason why I mention it here is Drupal is done by Stanford Web Services. You ask for it and they give it to you. But that's how it works. And I've already went through some reasons why Drupal is good. Stanford actually does use WordPress and some other things, and they allow external website vendors as well, depending on what affiliation on campus you have. But Drupal, and more specifically Stanford Sites, is what SWS, Stanford Web Services, offers to most units to use for free. It's a fantastic service. All right, so I've already been dropping kudos to these guys, but they do such a good job. This is the website that you want to look at to begin your research after leaving this uh, session. And to give you the TLDR, I wanted to show you the website that I worked on. The customization that happened on my Office of Student Engagement, is basically this search functionality at the front of our homepage. And so this is a user pattern that we see commonly. I'll get to that in a moment. But the reason why we got to that was thinking about who is using our website and how to benefit them. Office of Student Engagement is a common office you find in many universities. We are the kind of mirror side to academics, right? The undergraduate education, VPUE at Stanford. So we are VPSA, student affairs. That means where they live, where they eat, what kind of social life they have, mental health. We deal mainly with the social aspects. And so in particular, student orgs. And student orgs do a lot on campus. They're actually responsible for some of the biggest events that happen. And so how do you plan a big event at Stanford with all these gigantic stadiums and engineering classrooms and everything under the sun? There's a lot of policy. And if you expect an 18 to 22-year-old to understand any of these policies and terminology to be able to get their event done, very difficult. It was even worse than before. But using a search bar for them to kind of help themselves is where I decided to land upon, because that's what I felt as the most effective based on talking with them. So just to review, they're young, low attention span, lack of experience on a college campus, and they are not experienced leaders yet. So we have to do a lot of teaching, and that's what the website is for. Out of all our different resource channels, the website was the best fit to be able to kind of help with policy and teaching them. And so I put a lot of focus in on improving the website. And the other resource channels we use for different things, like to get the word out on social events or to build the reputation of the office. But the website is where we want to have a really good experience where they can actually get questions, have their questions answered. And so getting back to why we chose the search bar, it's an iconic UX pattern, it's engaging, and the word that I've always loved is satisficing by Steve Krug. It's as they're going through their user experience, they're satisfied, they're being slightly satisfied, but it's sufficing. It's not perfect, but they're getting closer. And so that's something I always think about, and I love the word. And so it makes me happy to include it into this presentation. From what I've seen of some of the students, less thinking, removing obstacles. These are really important things to consider when presenting them information. And it just so happens that Algolia was being rolled out for VPSA websites, which is a AI assisted search behind the scenes. And so there's a lot of features within Algolia that helps us, like hinting terminology. Like if they type in one thing that is meaningful from them from high school that it has to do with event planning, it can now be translated to what Stanford calls it. So like, do we call a space a room? Do we call it a space, reservation? These are things that can get lost in the complexity. So more flowers for SWS. They do so much for you. To get started, you would begin, you would reach out to them via this page, and they would walk you through a lot of what happens to get your subtheme going. Initially, you would consult with them basically to talk about why you're doing it, and all the other factors that that you would consider. But once approved, they would you would essentially work on these different aspects. They would help project manage. They can design, they can develop, and they will help you launch and maintain the website. So depending on what you need them for, they are there for you. More on this later as we talk about each one of these sections in particular. So to begin the consult stage, they will summarize what you need, and it's just so that everyone is clear about what you're getting and what to expect from them. And so they're very organized. And this is something that is important for members of Stanford units so that you bring it back to your teams. If you're working with people that are organized, then you can show your manager, you can explain to the team exactly what you're trying to do. And this is something that everyone can get behind because it's well organized. Uh, to talk about design, I wanted to bring up the design diamond. So for me, since I have a background in design and development, I performed this action myself, which was part of the consultation, right? This eventually I'll explain saved on some of the budget, but if you have experience with design, you can go through the different uh, you can go through the design diamond and the workflow to get what you need. And so I've already shown you the final result. We can get into that more. But shout out to UXers who we recently talked about the design diamond. This is definitely a group that you should join on Stanford. During the design stage, we talked about a lot of different things. And so one of the problems that I had, I think can help everyone understand like how much pace that we're putting through the design is we're not just designing a button, we're designing the button to be the best it can be under the Stanford brand guidelines. And so some of the easy things is like Stanford branding, like what font and what colors, those are in the identity guide. It's easy. So within Figma, which is what they suggest that we use to design, I recreated some of the elements based on other Stanford website things that I liked, uh, other Stanford website web elements that I've seen on other websites, and I designed this myself. One of the issues that I had was with legibility, and they helped me understand what to go for. And the fix was to just put a border around the buttons. And shout out to David Tom and Robert Dorman. In one of the UX meetings, they helped me come to this conclusion because I was changing the colors to some of the buttons and trying to get that right matching combo when in reality, the border just helps with the contrast because it's black on blue. Anyway, we went into the minutia trying to solve some of these problems. And the reason why we tried to solve this problem in particular because it was an accessibility issue. Contrast is very important to Stanford. We take it very seriously, and so the designs need to reflect that. And so we went through some of the pacing. To fast forward a little bit, there is an accessibility worksheet that we went through when evaluating the design. And so these are things that they help you with during the process. So other things here, I'm just showing what happened with the design. I ha originally had different colors, and eventually we just went with the blue. Uh, I tested this with students, and they seemed to like this one the most, and so we went with that. It's a very calming color. Sometimes they come to our website and they're in a frantic mode. So this is something that we felt was probably a good idea. Other things that we worked on is like a mobile mode. You can see like what the search buttons look like when it's in mobile. Uh, when you're working on these different design things, there's a lot to consider. It's not just visual and aesthetics. There's actual problem solving for accessibility, mobile, uh, and just having good experiences all across the board. And for my project, I worked on the design, but we had SWS developers actually program it. They did the front end programming. I didn't feel comfortable doing it initially. Now that I have the sub theme, I may do that in the future. But Rebecca Hong from SWS did develop my design into the theme code, and having that was a huge help. And so we paid them for the service. Like I said, they can do the consulting phase. You talk about how this project is going to be made. They were very good partners to work with in for this project. And not only that, just to review, they do so much more. So the final design was approved uh, by them, and they managed to process, like I said, accessibility mobile version. They have copies of the website on the GitHub repository. They program the front end code. They insert it into the Drupal. I am actually not a Drupal developer, so they did all that template code work that needed to be for the search bar. They did some testing and they launched a website for me. So it is a great service that they provide. It's definitely leadership that you would want from a company like Stanford, so that everyone can make stuff that and not break other people's stuff. Here is an example of the GitHub. So in the future, this is something that I've done recently. If you want to edit it, you can use your design and development knowledge to make edits to the design. You, the methods are rather plain. You just make a branch, uh, make a request, and then you contact them and they review it. This is actually, I'm going to talk about it later, part of the maintenance. And so here, on the day that it launched, everyone was really happy. It's a really great team to work with. Uh, and a lot of these people are here today. And so being part of the community, the sub theme community, is just a great thing. Now that it's live, I'm part of the gang. And so here it is again of like what the website looks like behind the scenes. Do you want to be responsible for this all by yourself? I think the answer is no for me. I want to be a part of the team and let them take the responsibility for the security, and I just worry about small parts that affect my website and my audience. So here is the slide that deals with money. How much did it cost? It was actually fairly priced. I'm not, I don't want to share it because I didn't get permission. But like I said, I took the design part out of this project and it saved some money. It was, I mean, if anyone has any questions, you should probably just talk to me directly or with Dina in the future. But this was a unique billing type. I would say that the only other thing that that people should think about is there is a maintenance charge over time. So remember, they're maintaining your sub theme week after week, month after month. And when you are updating it using the GitHub repository, they are helping you do the testing and whatnot. So this all depends on how you manage the project over time. If you're doing design, if you're doing development, and all this stuff. This summer, I plan to do a little bit more CSS rollout, sidebars in particular for me. I probably want to do a design on that. Maybe do a slight CSS based color changing of some elements based on some feedback from leadership. And so these are things that I will do, but they oversee, and that's what you're paying maintenance for. Those prices are, in my opinion, modest. It depends on everyone. It depends on your department's budgets on what is higher, what is low. And so let's talk about results. Uh, Results from Google Analytics can mean so many different things depending on how you look at it. And so for us, I made a lot of changes on the website because I was hired to drastically improve some of our communications. So this is reflecting uh, some of the specific customizations I made on the sub theme, but it also reflects just like a lot of fixes that I made, like optimizing the navigation, changing some of the content on the homepage. A lot of this has to do with that. But I would say that organic search was strong, just from people Googling, and it looked like the active users was around 40,000 people. And so this year, from the time that it was that I rolled out the sub theme in which happened to be like before the fall quarter up to now, direct search is strong. So I mean direct visitors that typed in the website or link from somewhere within Stanford. That is a lot stronger than organic, a lot more active users and increased new users. So I think what I'm taking away is that it's just a generally more healthy data profile for our website, and I'm happy about that. I think for next year, it may actually prove to be more telling. Like how, like, is it consistent? Did it change even more? Especially since I made all these moves this year. Next year, to see like what that looks like and trying to improve on that will be a bigger thing for me. And so that's my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Does anyone have any questions? I will say that just talking about CMSs in general, it looks like the WordPress community is burning down a little bit because they've had so many issues just within themselves. It looks like Expression Engine has been on a downward trend for many years. And then there's a lot of other CMSs on the way up. But as we know, CMSs need to have a lot of features these days because the audiences are very sophisticated. There's a lot of catch up that needs to happen. So I think Drupal and WordPress uh, probably still be kings for a while. However, what I do see as competition are things like Webflow and Framer. These are basically the advanced versions of Squarespace and Wix. I think these are very powerful programs. They, once input, they can become quite headless in taking the data and publishing it. And since they are managed as like a group, they are fairly secure, and some of the features are fairly sophisticated in that they can have subsystems of users log in, like with SUNET type systems. So it's still interesting in the web world, but let's see where it goes in the future. Any questions? I think we're good. Thank you all.